620,000 men vanished. Not in hidden prisons, not in secret mass graves. They were fed into history's first industrialized killing machine, a meat grinder built on 3 horrifying pillars. Forget Gettysburg, forget Antietam. The real Grim Reaper? Disease. 2/3 of all deaths, smallpox, dysentery, measles, rotting men from the inside. At Chancellorsville alone, 5,000 Confederates collapsed before firing a shot. Meet the Minié ball, a conical nightmare that revolutionized slaughter. It didn't just kill, it pulverized. Hit a limb, amputation, hit bone, shrapnel exploded through flesh. West Point trained generals sending men shoulder to shoulder into rifled artillery, while the loudest sound in North American history until the atomic bomb shook Gettysburg. This is the real reason they vanished, not mystery, not conspiracy, a perfect storm of disease, technology, and obsolete bravery. By the end, even Robert E. Lee admitted, "It is well that war is so terrible," because what you're about to witness is the terrible math of the meat grinder. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. We are going to explore what precisely caused the American Civil War to be so deadly. Initially, it should be recognized that significantly more soldiers perished from illness than from battle wounds. Roughly 67% of all fatalities during the Civil War stemmed from contagious illnesses like smallpox, dysentery, and measles. This outcome naturally followed from gathering numerous men from diverse regions into confined spaces, a situation worsened by insufficient clean water and sanitation. Depletion of forces due to sickness critically impacted military engagements. To illustrate, during the Battle of Chancellorsville, smallpox infection rendered 5,000 Confederate troops unable to serve. That acknowledged, disease invariably claims lives in warfare. Nonetheless, combat in the American Civil War proved extraordinarily lethal for several distinct reasons. The primary factor making fighting so deadly was the widespread deployment of what became arguably the war's most notorious munition, the Minié ball, named for its creator, French officer Claude-Étienne Minié. Prior to its development, rifles loaded with round musket balls required slow reloading because their ammunition needed a tight fit within the barrel for the rifling to engage. Minié overcame this limitation by creating a conical bullet with a hollow base that sat loosely in the barrel. Upon firing, the projectile's hollow cavity expanded, pressing the bullet firmly against the rifling grooves. This imparted a stabilizing spin, greatly boosting accuracy and speeding up the reloading process significantly. However, this projectile was heavy and slow-moving, inflicting massive bodily trauma. Struck bones typically shattered, frequently leading to necessary limb amputations. Yet rifled muskets alone did not escalate battlefield deaths. Undoubtedly, the most powerful armament available to both armies was field artillery, an essential element on 19th century battlefields. Technological progress meant artillery was now more precise and destructive than in prior conflicts. Explosive shells could annihilate entire platoons with a direct impact, and the advent of rifled artillery pieces, such as the Parrott gun, substantially increased the probability of such lethal strikes. Per the account of Sergeant Jonathan Stowe, 15th Massachusetts Infantry, linear tactics deployment remained overwhelmingly the chief cause of combat casualties. Predictably, firearms of such accuracy and lethality proved catastrophic against the rigid formations utilized on Civil War battlefields. A substantial majority of the war's commanding officers were educated at the United States Military Academy located at West Point. In reality, West Point graduates led at minimum one army in every significant engagement fought during the conflict, prominent examples including leaders like Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee. Since West Point's doctrine highlighted Napoleonic period frontal assault tactics, it is logical that both adversaries arrayed their forces linearly and equally expected that both endured severe losses accordingly. Matters worsened because many generals selected during hostilities lacked previous combat experience and gained rank mainly via political influence. Nonetheless, one must acknowledge that no superior method existed then for fighting on open terrain. Where protective cover was available, officers customarily stationed troops behind it. To illustrate, during the Battle of Antietam, 500 Confederates sheltered behind timber and stone walls succeeded in delaying multiple Union brigades advancing toward what became known as Burnside's Bridge. The definitive demonstration of Civil War combat's deadliness remains the notorious offensive at Gettysburg commanded by Robert E. Lee, Pickett's charge. In this assault, 12,500 Confederate infantry traversed 1 mile of exposed ground under devastating Union rifle and cannon fire. While a minority of Confederates breached Union defenses, the attack was decisively repelled, producing Confederate casualties surpassing 6,000 soldiers. The reach and precision of rifled muskets guaranteed Lee's troops would endure severe losses long before nearing Union positions. And even prior to their advance, Confederate forces faced sustained bombardment from Northern artillery. Artillery proved so pivotal in the Civil War that, per Craig Simmons, the Battle of Gettysburg, the cannonades at Gettysburg likely constituted the loudest artificial noise in North America until the initial atomic bomb explosion. As recounted by Colonel Joseph Mayo of the 3rd Virginia Infantry, a Gettysburg combatant, the initial shots passed harmlessly overhead, but gunners soon found their mark, unleashing chaos. An explosion erupted in a treetop, followed instantly by another, and a shrill scream. 2 soldiers died immediately. 3 sustained horrific wounds. Company F suffered dreadfully, and a lieutenant's legs were mangled below the knees. By the war's latter stages, commanders on both sides finally acknowledged the fatality of open-field combat. Consequently, Union and Confederate armies adopted fixed defensive emplacements and fortifications, evident during the Siege of Petersburg, also among the earliest, albeit limited, deployments of the Gatling gun in warfare. When the First World War erupted 50 years later, the American Civil War was retrospectively viewed as both presaging trench warfare and marking the shift from dense formations on exposed ground to dispersed tactics using cover. This tactical evolution, however, cost 620,000 American lives. 8% of the nation's male population perished in the conflict, with 1/4 of all soldiers never returning home. 620,000 souls, 8% of a generation. 1 in 4 soldiers swallowed by the earth. Disease, the Minié ball. Napoleonic tactics meeting rifled artillery. Together, they built the first modern killing machine, a meat grinder that chewed through American lives at a rate unseen for 50 years, until the trenches of the Somme. But here's the chilling truth. This slaughter wasn't senseless. It was the brutal tuition fee for modern war. The Civil War taught the world. Courage is obsolete against accurate rifles. Massed formations are suicide under explosive shells. And disease? It kills faster than any bullet. Yet the cost was 620,000 receipts paid in blood. Every shattered limb at Gettysburg, every fever-ridden tent at Chancellorsville, every vanished son was a down payment on the horrors of the 20th century. So I leave you with this. Did these men have to vanish? Or was the meat grinder the only teacher brutal enough to force generals to abandon the charge and finally take cover?